Tell us about your decision to come to the U.S.
Oh, that's a long time ago. We have a dinner at home, and all my family was sitting at the table. We have a special day for dinner. Like it's very similar for Thanksgiving here, but over there it's like Christmas. So my mother and father start to asking everybody, what my brothers, what they want to do in the future, and some say, "Oh, I want to be a doctor," and others say, "I want to be a lawyer." They come into me, I tell my mother, I just want to go to the United States and buy a house for you in Hollywood, so next to the sign or near to the sign. And after 1 year, I start to figure out how I'm gonna come in here and get the money because everybody was laughing about me because it's so expensive to buy property here. I start to put everything together and just come in here like everybody, illegal, and cross the hills, cross everything, and finally I get here. But I was a very lucky person because when I come in here, it still was a process to get legal. So I fill it up all the papers and send it to the immigration, and after 2 years I have my green card, and then I have to wait in 4 years to get a regular car, and finally I get my citizenship after 6 years. I used to have a partner and he passed away. He left me some money so I can be able to buy the house, but by that moment they don't give me the house because I was illegal and all this kind of, my work was not enough to buy the house and blah blah blah. So I figured out the most important thing was money, so I have to put the money together to be able to buy the house. So that's what I did. I put together a lot of money and give the down payment and then continue to pay the house. But my dream was to get the house faster I can because it was something in my mind. I said I have to buy a property here no matter what. So finally I get the house, and then the year I get the house, my mother passed away. So she had the opportunity to see the house, and then she passed away. So that was very important for me too.
At an academy back east when I was 15, I learned that what I believed it wasn't true, that I was deceived. I come to terms with these things, yeah, I still do, they roll a part of me. I cannot lose, I can do it, I can change it myself. I can go get away from this place some people call hell. I'm no different, I'm no better than them, but I'm far away from them. Here comes the change. Here comes the change. It's always change. Here comes the change. Here comes the change.
This is Bob Herzog on camera. We're here at 1647 Maltman to interview Alberto Hernandez. This house has been featured in Quinceañera, the recent movie. I want to catch this wonderful inlaid tile work on the walk. No habrá de cambiar el mundo hasta que el hombre cambie su conciencia. You can't change the world until you change your conscience.
I came into Houston, Texas.
Okay.
In Houston, Texas, and one of my best friends passed away. So I get so depressed because he passed away very fast. He had a toxoplasmosis, a disease, the brain.
Jeez.
In 3 months, he passed away.
It's terrible.
So I was not ready to something like that happen so fast. And I went to the doctor because I can't sleep. I was so depressed, and then he recommended me to start to do something artistic or talk with people or get out. Just doing something because the only way they want to be crazy or something like that.
Jump off a cliff.
Yeah. So
Did you paint?
No, I never paint before. I just went to the store and buy my painting and start to do little things around. And that's the way I start to do things. And then we buy the house, and I saw the garden is so big and it's a big area where I can do my artistic thing. So I have already 14 years doing little by little things. So it's more like therapy. It's not like I have to do things.
Right.
Yeah, it's something I enjoy and relax my body and relax myself, and I be a better person with the rest of people too.
But you did it through art. So when you came in from Mexico, did you come here to live?
No, I came into Houston just for a few years
Okay.
to make
you were
some
doing
money,
your art
and
too?
then my idea was to come back to Mexico.
Uh-huh.
But I come here and I like it, and I decided to live here for the rest of my life. And die here and bury here and everything.
Then you started this garden,
Yeah.
and that's when you started installing the art.
It's all my art and my
14
garden and
years ago.
everything. Yeah.
And we're going to be talking to Marianne.
My name is Marianne Spencer, and I live at 1926 Michael Torina Street in Los Angeles. Well, I was born in Los Angeles, and I've lived just 2 or 3 different places in Los Angeles, but ended up in Silver Lake in 1972. Before that, actually, I was brought as a baby to 1913 West Temple Street, and I went to Rosemont Elementary School, to Virgil Junior High, and to Belmont High School.
Oh, right here.
Right here, I haven't gone far. I've always returned. But I lived with my great aunt on Temple Street. And she was a remarkable person because she came here from the South. She brought her mother with her who had been a slave. And that's the great-grandmother that I was raised with. So I had heard many stories from her, and it was very interesting and different. I was very young, but,
Yes.
and I lived with her for a long time, and she was the one that took care of me for the early part of my life. I also had a brother that stayed with me there, but he ended up going to live with his mother, with our mother, I should say, but I was given to that aunt when I was 5 months old.
Oh,
So she was my mother for all of my life. My father, I understand, was one of the first black firemen in Los Angeles. And he was from Tennessee, and his family, and my mother's side of the family was from, she was born in Central California. And her family was, my grandfather, I guess, was from Portugal.
Oh.
He was a seaman, a merchant seaman, and came all around somewhere and ended up in San Francisco. Then his brother went on to Hawaii. And it's really ironic that my brother, who I didn't live with but a very short time, ended up as an adult in Honolulu.
Oh.
And he met his great uncle.
Oh my goodness.
When he asked where he was from, this man told him he was from Portugal. And he said, oh, my mother's family was from there, and her name is Lopez, only it's pronounced Lopes. It's L-O-P-E-S because the difference in the 2 languages. And he says, well, that's my name. And that's how they happened to meet. That was, I thought,
That's a
very
marvelous
interesting.
story, yes.
Yeah. So anyway,
What were some of the things that your great aunt taught you?
oh, she was a wonderful woman because she was not educated well, but when she got here, she was able to buy property. She said that she was sorry that she lost a piece of property that was down in South Los Angeles, but she had bought the house on Temple Street, and she was able to keep that one. She had a beauty shop. She opened a beauty shop there.
Oh.
And also worked for some projects. I think they had it at that time. The government had the NRA and the SERA and all those different, you know, or different ways to help people. So I remember her telling me that, and she would sew all the time. She said that's the Sewing Emergency Relief Association, SERA. And so that's what she did. But between that and the beauty shop, she was able to keep that property. And so that's how I happened to end up in that this part of the world.
When were you married? What year?
1942, 43, somewhere like that. And it was during the war. So I might mention that my father was in the First World War. And then he died very young. And then my husband was in the Second World War. And my son was in Vietnam War. And grandson said he's not going anywhere, but he joined the Air Force. But he's not seen service.
Hi Larry. Thanks for being here, and it just seems like anybody in Silver Lake knows about you and knows what you've done here.
My family had basically all moved here in the 40s. My mother's from West Virginia, my father's from North Dakota. My father's family homesteaded in North Dakota. And they're all Lebanese, and my family moved here, and they lived right across the street from General Hospital. And then they moved in the 40s, all the Nicolas moved into one apartment over on Malbert, right off Vermont.
So what year were you born?
1949. Yeah, when I was about like 2 years old, we moved to Tracy Street, 3926 Tracy Street, and we lived right across the street from the front door of Marshall High. There's a picture I should find. It's of me, my brother, two brothers. Every morning they would play the trumpet out in front of the school, and my mother had us out there in our pajamas every morning saluting the flag. It was such a great neighborhood that, you know, in those days you could kind of run free and it was safe, you know. There was the hobbies, you know where the cheese store is now?
Yeah.
Say Cheese was a hobby store.
And then you said your father and your uncle then owned a market, right?
Yes.
And where was that market?
On Sunset and Fountain.
I see.
There was the Keystone Cleaners, and then there was the Cola Twins Market. 4333 Sunset Boulevard.
And what did you have in the market?
It was like a community center. We specialized in meats. All the kids that came in either got a slice of bologna or went into the one of the walk-ins, dipped their hand in a pickle barrel and got a pickle.
Did your mom work there too?
My mom, my aunt, my cousins. But when I was a kid, she washed my hands and put the love for the feeding people into my hands, and that's why I can cook. I feed people. I graduated in '67. I did one semester at LACC, and then I moved to Santa Barbara City College and lived in Isla Vista. I got drafted.
You got drafted?
Yeah, I was drafted.
In what year?
'69.
Oh.
They sent me to cook school, of all things. They sent me to Northern Journey with the British Army, and which was great because then I cooked every other day and with the British, and it was just for 30 people, and I hung out with a German rock band. People used to love to come to our mess hall because, I don't know, we just touched food better.
When did you find the property for?
Well, I had a wholesale produce company. I was a purveyor to like a lot of the restaurants, like Yesterday's, Old World's, Chasen's. Those are all my accounts.
Oh.
And I had parking spaces in the produce market. I had 3 trucks. And I met this guy that managed a chart house, and we're still friends today. And he wanted to get in the produce business, and I knew how to buy the produce. So I bought the produce. We started a one case to chart house, and ended up we grew the business really fast. Yeah, I always wanted to have a restaurant. When I was 8 years old, I knew I wanted to have a restaurant. I was going to call it Larry's Octagon. And Larry's Octagon was a big restaurant. It had 8 different corners. And I always thought it should be on the corner of Franklin and Vermont. Because it needed to be big, but it had 8 different kitchens with the United Nations of seating in the middle. It's like farmer's market, but a little more upscale. That was when I was 8 years old, that was what I wanted to do. So when I was in the produce business, I got it postcard from somebody in Austria, and I was at my dad's store, standing there. I saw this postcard, and looked across the street, and it was the same building as that one in the picture, but boarded up.
Oh, oh.
So, I mean,
The light bulb went.
yes, I went across the street and I said, well, what's going on with this building? They said, well, we're going to move out of here in about a month. I found an investor, and he put up some money, and we built it. Michael Tunde, who's a very important part of this whole community.
We might just say Michael Rotundi is a famous architect now, I guess, and he's worked on several of your restaurants.
Yeah.
And he was your classmate at Marshall, or one of your
He was the
classmates
quarterback.
at Marshall High School. But the design of LA Nicola was very, very sort of high tech.
It was on the cover of Wet Magazine. It says Building Petrus Building in East Hollywood. It was a brick building, and then it was a deconstructed shed that went through it. It juxtaposed. That's when everybody learned that new word, juxtaposed, into the building, and it was.
It was raw, right?
It was raw.
A little bit like this. It was one of the first restaurants where the pipes were showing.
Yeah.
The ceiling was gutted out.
Yeah. It was just about preparing good food, you know, and use restraint, which was taught to me by Michael Rotundi in architecture, using restraint to not to do much. I still tell my chefs.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, and we tell everybody put Buddha on everything.
Sakai Shigekawa.
Dr. Shigekawa.
I spent 4 years at USC, and first year they didn't have a medical school, and the second year they only took 2 women. So then I was out, so I applied in Chicago, Stritch Loyola in Chicago, and I went to medical school for 4 years, and then after I graduated, I started practicing, and I had my internship in Bay City, Michigan. I had to have a general residency. But the war started, so everyone of Japanese descent had to leave. So then I went to Seaside Memorial in Long Beach. And of course, the war started, so we had to evacuate from that area and go to concentration camp.
And which camp were you
I
sent
was in Santa Anita racetracks, and I was very upset, of course, and bitter at the time. But I started to work and take care of patients, and there were 3 of us.
3 medical doctors?
Mhm.
Were you the only woman?
I was the only woman.
And how was it that you came to Silver Lake then?
Well, see, my folks had that house on Benton Way.
Oh, they did.
Down the street here. It's a 2-story house. They couldn't even live in it.
Oh, that was
war.
That was the house that they built.
Yes.
I
And
see.
this was an empty lot, so I decided to build a house here.
I see.
So,
Do you remember their address on Benton Way?
1537.
Oh,
just
so
down
they're
the street,
just
3 or 4
down-
doors down.
I
It's
see.
this 2-story house,
Mhm,
and they
mhm.
couldn't even live in it because the war just started. I mean, people around who didn't want any Orientals around. So in the meantime, they built the house anyway. But the neighbors were very kind, and they accepted us.
Are any of those neighbors, still around?
Yes,
do you think?
a lot of them.
Mhm. Do you remember
In fact, they were patients. They were
patients of yours?
patients of mine.
Right.
In fact, most of the area were patients of mine. I had a big practice, and I think I delivered more babies than any obstetrician in Los Angeles at that time.
So, did you actually specialize then in
No,
OBGYN?
but
You ended up
being a
doing that?
woman, I mean, I had more patients that were women.
I see.
Yeah, that were pregnant.
And did you do home births, or did you have hospital privileges, or?
Oh yes, I was going to at that time Queen of Angels Hospital.
Oh, Queen of Angels, I see.
I think I was one of 2 or 3 women that were practicing
I
there.
see.
I think my father was here in 18-something. I have it somewhere. And my mother came later.
I see.
And she was a picture bride.
Oh, she was.
And my mother was the one of 2, I think, but the only child left. I think her father was used to make kimonos. And my brother went for, I think, about a year or 6 months to UCLA and quit. But my sisters didn't go.
But did they
Finished
live?
high school,
Did they eventually come back and live after the war
though.
here in
yes,
Silver Lake?
the whole family were here. I
Uh-huh.
was the only one that was in Chicago.
Did your father work in the neighborhood?
No, he went in with a group of men and had a hog ranch
Oh,
in
he
Long
did?
Beach.
Oh,
So that's all.
so he would travel from here to
he
Long
would,
Beach.
He would commute.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother had a grocery store
She did.
in South Los Angeles.
Uh-huh. How did they feel, or how did you all feel, really coming back after the war? And
Well, we had a home to come home to, so.
you felt grateful
we
for
didn't have any
that.
diff-
Are you actually bilingual?
Well, yeah, I had to be. Of course, I had to learn from patients, so I made a lot of mistakes, but they didn't criticize me, so I learned as I went along.
Learn their language, or you mean learned English?
Yeah, in
or
Japanese.
Japanese?
I learned that, but I made a lot of mistakes, but no one ever
Corrected.
criticized me.
And she wanted you all,
We spoke English anyway because we didn't know any
I
Japanese.
see.
So all of us spoke English.
How did your parents feel about you being a doctor? I mean, were they
Well,
very proud? And
well, they never said anything.
They never said anything.
Glad that they always said to do what you like, you know.
I'm Don Jones.
You were Don Jarvis. How long have you lived in Silver Lake?
Well, let's see, since 1924. Yeah,
So now, how old were you when you moved here then?
11 years. Well, my father was born in England.
And your father, what brought him to America at the age of 19?
Well, his folks came here.
Mhm.
They were proselytized by the Mormon Church. And my father finished an apprenticeship in 1904 and went to Liverpool and worked for a year and then decided to come here. They all went straight to Utah. My grandmother was pretty ardent Mormon, yes.
And you were raised as a Mormon too, right?
No, I never took. My father bought a piece of property and put up a shop and a little place where he sold paints, wallpapers, and glass for windows.
Uh-huh. Where was the shop?
Down here on North Hoover. There used to be a stream that came down there. You know where Virgil is?
Sure.
The stream entered about Virgil and Sunset and came down through this studio property. And we used to go over and gather the film that was thrown out in boxes. There were round tin boxes full of film. And we'd punch a hole in the box and light it, and it made a smoke bomb. And we'd throw it out at the intersection of Hollywood and Sunset Boulevard to confuse motorists.
But I never knew there was actually a stream in that area, a real stream in that
The
area.
horses came down and drank out of it.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
And did you go to high school here too? You went to high school in the...
No, I was chosen out of junior high as one of the people that they should send down to Polytechnic for architectural school because I could draw. And I made enough money so that in 1929 I had cash in my pocket and bought a brand new 1929 Ford.
Wow.
For cash.
And what did that cost in 1929?
I think it was $671. I knew how to drive because my father had taught me a little bit. And I had just turned 16. So when I pulled out this roll of cash and I said, I'd like that tan one over there, the guy almost fainted. Oh, I couldn't keep it very long. I kept it until the next spring, and I couldn't get any work. And I finally got so I couldn't buy gasoline either. It was $1 a gallon. You could fill the tank for very few dollars, but I didn't have a few dollars. I was close to my father, an only son, and we worked together later on. We worked together during the Depression as house painters. And because I was a house painter and because I was good at it, I got a job teaching it. And boy, that job paid real good money at the time. It was amazing. In fact, it paid so much money that I bought this house from my wife's parents. I paid the mortgage and bought the house with that teaching job. In 1929, when I bought my car, I went to a party and met a girl, and I fell in love with her. And it took her a couple of years to really understand how serious I was. But I hung in there until finally we went steady together. Her folks built this house in 1924. Her mother used the rent to pay the mortgage. And when the financial situation got so lousy, she couldn't do that. And just about that time, I got this job teaching, which paid very well, and I had enough money to pick up the mortgage on the house and pay for the house. And I guess if you ask me what the most wonderful thing in my life was, it would be my 4 kids.
Oh, sweet. What was your wife's name?
Lucille.
You wanted to escape, you wanted to be free from all the pain. You want and hope and wish and want, but it will stay the same. It's not a game you play. See, nothing's ever gonna change. Nothing is ever gonna change unless you do something differently. You wanted to escape, you wanted to be free. You want and wish and hope for change, and pray each day for change, but don't do anything differently. It's still insane. Nothing's ever gonna change. Nothing is ever gonna change unless you do something differently. You wanted to escape, you wanted to believe, you wanted to go on the same way. And everything's the same each day. Insanity is your game. It's not a game, not a game. You wanted to escape, you wanted to be free from all the pain. You want and hope and wish and want, but it will stay the same. It's not a game you play. See, nothing's ever gonna